This podcast is proud to be part of the talkSPORT Fan Network. talkSPORT. Powered by fans.
Danilo's free. He goes to get wide. Edge of the box. Yes! Great goal! What a hit from Oliveira! It's wide! They've only gone and done it again! Forest back in the lead! Rewarded Gibbs White! Oh, and he scores! And the City ground goes ballistic! Forest are in the Premier League!
Hello and welcome to this review edition of Red Side of the Trent. It's not very often we get to do one of those, or say that, really. But as we come to you shortly after Nottingham Forest progressed to the fourth round of the FA Cup after defeating plucky little Luton 2-0 at the City Grounds to move through. And the preview part is the one that it was sort of the appetizer to the main meal, really, as a Forest take on Liverpool in a top of the table clash in the Premier League. We'll cover more of that shortly. But for now, I'm joined by Reiss, Lane and Lee Clark. Chaps, how are you both?
Yep, sound. All good?
Yeah.
Excellent,
Good.
Reiss.
Yourself, mate?
All good, thank you very much. Yeah, yesterday was very therapeutic. I'm sure you'll both agree after what happened last season. But yeah, we'll just dive straight in. So Lee, I'll start with you. Well, I assume you actually got your seat okay, unlike some of us. But actually, we'll cover that straight off the bat. So yeah, as Reiss actually hit the jackpot as in his quest to move around the ground, decided to move from his usual Upper Bridgeford seat into Lower Bridgeford and actually managed to get in. But I do feel sorry for those in Upper Bridgeford who were stuck in a lengthy queue and didn't actually get in the game until 40 minutes had played. So yeah, I don't know what happened there. I think they said that it was just a safety issue, health and safety issues had to do with the ice on the stairs and stuff like that. To be fair, it was quite slippery where we were standing in the actual grounds. But yeah, I mean, you've had all day for us to prepare for that. It's not really on. But
Well,
anyway,
I mean, they've had all week, haven't they? I mean, the weather's been the same all week.
I know. Yeah.
It's two things what I like of my business rules, which is preparation and communication. And it just seemed like nobody got any of them yesterday. I mean, I'm having a laugh about it because, like I said, I did move back to Lower Bridgeford, which is where I had my season ticket before we got promoted, hence why I moved. So, yeah, it was a bit like, oh, looking up and like, Tom had it bang on the head. It was just like when you see them European grounds away where a section of the ground's been closed for like racism or something, and it's just a massive banner put across it, and it's like, oh, that's what's happening up there. So, yeah. But no, it's not on. It's poor from the club as well, because I'm sure there would have been a section of fans who might have been first time to the ground yesterday or not been for a while, and that's the treatment again. Judging what I've read on Twitter and it kind of seems like no one knew what was kind of going on from your stewards and then Forest bit of a cover up, wasn't it, really? And it's just such a shame because everything's so positive around the club at the minute, and then you get something like that.
Yeah, it was weird. I don't know what the club said with most of them were within 10 minutes. That just wasn't true. Like, I'm sure you could probably see it from your seat in the Trent end. It didn't fill up till about just before Yates scored. It was just so weird. Like, we had Mullick and Tyre. I mean, I was quite fortunate because I left about. I mean, I got into the queue about 1:45. It took me an hour to get in. So, and now I was one of the ones lucky enough to be right at the front. Like, the ones at the back were never getting in for kick-off, letting anything else.
I mean, I've seen a few people just didn't bother, didn't they? Just turned around and went home. So
I'm not surprised. And to be fair, I would fully understand if they push for refunds. The club really should be looking into it because it was really, really poor. Like they said, they've had a week. Like, it's not like it's just like the snow just turned around one day and went, oh yeah, it's gonna be frosty today. But
one of my friends who's a roof himself put, and he sits in Upper Bridgeford as well, Ian Fisher, if you're listening, he put the condensation from the metal roof was dripping down and it was freezing up so quickly. And he said that he mentioned how cold the floor was. They obviously probably during the week needed some temporary heaters and that in there, you know what I mean? Just to keep at least a bit of I know it's hard because it's a long concourse, and you know what I mean. But maybe keep a bit of heat going. I guess the problem is, you know, obviously up the steps to. I'm sure there could have been some solution. Someone better qualified than me could have got some solution. I'm sure in place. It was just unfortunately nothing was prepared for, was it?
That's it. Yeah, but thankfully, I think those who did get it didn't actually miss much in the end. But Lee, obviously, we'll start with you. The team, as expected, 11 wholesale changes to the Forest team, 11 in total. Were you happy to see those changes made? And was there anyone in the starting 11 that you were particularly surprised to see? For example, Toffolo maybe starting at left back over Rabbit or Mamadele?
I was perhaps a little bit surprised to see Toffolo and Moreno play. Yeah, I don't think I was that surprised. I did expect wholesale changes. I just think, weirdly, I actually don't think Nuno would have made wholesale changes if we didn't play Liverpool. If we had another week to recover, I think he would have gone pretty strong still. So I think I know it can often be like this media contrived stuff, can't it? That every manager wants to do well in the cup, but I genuinely think Nuno does. I think he sees it, especially now we've got so many points on the board already, and we're not going to be in that relegation battle. I think it would be a good opportunity to try and go on a cup run, and I think Nuno appreciates the value of the cup still. So I think it probably fell at a bit of an awkward time for him, because I think he would have liked to have played a bit of a stronger team. But no, in terms of the team he did pick, I think it would have been nice to get Abbott some game time, but ultimately he played centre-back against Newcastle in the Cup, didn't he? And the two centre-backs that we played yesterday have both waited very patiently. And obviously in the case of Morata, when he has come on, he's been really good. So it's one of them. I think he'll know that his time will come, but unfortunately for him, it wasn't yesterday.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I agree. He was the only sort of one I was sort of like, oh, is he not sort of, but I guess ultimately the club's got a job to do. And thankfully, Reiss, it looks pretty much from kickoff that was going to be the way. I mean, it wasn't say uneventful. I mean, we had a couple of half-hearted penalty shouts from Sousa. Obviously, there was no VAR yesterday, of course, which was in a way quite refreshing, weirdly. But of course, bar a few little instances, I think they had one shot from range. Isaiah Jones waltzed into the box once, and that was it. Was well stopped by Miguel. But you know, Forest, you just felt that as soon as Forest could flex their muscles, they get ahead, and then eventually, after smashing one off the bar, they did do that for Ryan Yates, very good header, and then also a delightful ball from Ramon Sousa.
Yeah, I think the positive, just to touch on the team selection as well, is that there's a good core in that team yesterday, isn't there, who are playing mostly in the Premier League. Your likes of your Ryan Yates, your Moratos. You know, Jota Silva's had some time in the team, and you know, Willy Bolly's come off the bench. Taro's been coming off the bench. Ward Prowse has come off the bench, experienced Premier League player. So that was kind of good to have that core. Yeah, it was one of them. I mean, I know you was a little bit concerned, Christian, because obviously they sacked Edwards and that in the week, and we said about his typical Forest PTSD, which you mentioned on every pod at the minute because they're doing so well, that they would kind of come and have a go. I was pretty relaxed and confident yesterday, and I actually said to my friends who I went with yesterday, if we get the first goal today, we'll win the game. And that's what we did. Again, another great time to get the goal just before half-time. But it had been coming. And I mean, Taro shanked one wide, and I know we had the couple of penalty shots, but I thought the main one I thought was a bit of a dive from Sousa, to be honest. Obviously, Yates very, very unlucky hitting the bar. That was a brilliant strike. And then it was like the Garner-Yates combination, wasn't it, from the playoff season? Superb ball in from Sousa. And all Yates has to do really there is just guide it into the corner. The power's on the cross, and he does. No chance for Kaminsky. And yeah, we was kind of off and running then. And you're just thinking if we can get a second, obviously, as we did, as we'll chat about in a minute, it was as professional and as good a day as you'd like, really, wasn't it?
Very much so, yeah. We'll come on to that now. I mean, second half started. So Luton seemed to. I think they not sit around fairly well without any real sort of penetrative threat. I thought it was all pretty to build up, and nothing really at the top end of it when it really mattered. And after about 15 minutes, Forest got balls, and Yates clips a delightful ball over the top for Jota Silva, who scored obviously right ball, who squared it to Ramon Sousa, who became the first person since Ryan Yates actually in that Huddersfield's game we won 2-1 to score and assist for Forest in an FA Cup match. What was your view on the goal?
Yeah, it was a great goal. I suppose it typifies what Forest under Nuno are all about, doesn't it? Get the ball in a deeper area and get it forward as quick as you can. Brilliant ball from Yates. More of that from him, definitely. It was. Jota's a weird player, I'm finding, because he'll do some really good stuff like that assist yesterday. But I still think in other parts of his game, he's still quite raw and a little bit naive. But yeah, I mean, he looked like a player yesterday who was kind of relishing being on the pitch for longer than sort of his mandatory 20 minutes. So yeah, it was a nice little finish. He had, what made it a little bit more difficult was he actually had Taiwo running in as well, didn't he? So I wasn't sure if he was going to put it across the face of goal or pull it back. But thankfully he made the right decision, and yeah, nice finish. I agree with you. I don't think Luton looked like a side to me that have been robbed of all their best players. I mean, Carlton Morris must think he's the only one, really, isn't he, from last season that was really an integral part of the team. But yeah, they just looked massively devoid of. They were just such a different side to what we were used to with them last year, weren't they? I suppose.
It was a bit strange, yeah. I know Adebayo came on towards the end. It was quite nice seeing the Forest number 4 actually marshal him correctly this time rather than just be a complete clown about it. But it just seemed they just had no. It was bizarre, wasn't it? I don't want to say they look bad, but you can see why they are where they are. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that Jones will probably be a decent signing for me. I think he should have scored actually in the first half.
Miguel did really well there.
He went dancing through, didn't he? I actually thought Bolly was going to foul him. It just looked like for all the world he was just going to foul him. But yeah, it was just strange. It was a strange performance. I still expected that because obviously it's only this week that Edwards has been sacked. I still expected they'd have that kind of never say die spirit, even though they're kind of 20th in the championship. I don't know. It just wasn't there. It was just different. It was just weird.
I think there was an image of what was the actual reality last season was in the media, and that there was actually, they had this half decent side, and there was actually pretty poor. Morris put himself about into a bit. I mean, Adebayo didn't really have much time to really do anything. It was just, I know they had the odd moments. Miguel made a good save from Morris second half, but I never really felt in any massive danger. I wouldn't say that they had any real period in the game where you're thinking, oh God, they're putting us under real pressure here. It was a team typified like struggling in the championship. To be honest, from their perspective, they probably wanted to get yesterday out of the way and concentrate on making sure, as Dave said the other day, that they don't slip into a relegation battle, because they should still have enough quality to pull themselves out of the bottom of that league. I mean, Morris and Adebayo were scoring goals in the Premier League last season, and some of our fans were wanting these players, so them two should be able to have enough quality to pull them away, really.
Do you think so? Yeah. I mean, I must admit, when the clock ticked to 80, 81, and it was 2-0 Forest, there was a big part of me that was like, oh, please no, please not again. I think they had possession at that moment in time as well, but I think and then they had that chance through Morris, as you said, but once we dealt with it, it was like, yeah, they're not scoring, are they? It was, pretty routine, Reiss. I mean, it was a weird day, wasn't it? It was very weird atmosphere-wise, and obviously there's a lot of people in the ground for the first time, sort of thing. Their first game, that was obviously nice. The Cup fans, as affectionately known by some, but of course, obviously, we can't gatekeep who supports Forest. Of course, it's good to see so many people watching the first game and stuff like that. But it just felt a bit like Forest's reserve team, or B team, if you like, didn't really get out of first gear, and that was more than enough to win the game. Think that's a fair assessment?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's kind of pinch yourself here, what I'm going to say. This is like part and parcel of being a big club, really, in the Premier League, in terms of, I'd say we're now in his third season in the Premier League. We're obviously riding high at the minute, joint second on points. So you'd say we're pretty established now. Premier League squads, as we've got players who can come in, as we've seen, and do well in the Premier League. So when they're against a championship side in one who are struggling, the second team really should still be winning. All our squad's full of confidence as well. You know what I mean? It's not like we're struggling at the bottom of the league and there's pressure on these lads to come in produce because they need to, to take over somebody in the first team. You look at the subs yesterday. Back in the day, it would have been like, you would have been probably bringing players on the FA Cup third round, cloggers to try and, let's see if you got out about it. We're bringing on as top scorer, his 2 informed wingers and who was the other sub at the time, the fourth one, when we brought on Wood, Hudson-Odoi, Langer, and Dominguez. And Dominguez, who's been fabulous for us. So, and then obviously we're bringing in Danilo right at the end, which was lovely to see him back. So it's just part and parcel of a big club, and that's why the atmosphere feels a little bit off, because it's like when Liverpool playing Accrington yesterday. You're turning up to the ground, and I know it sounds a bit arrogant in a way, but with the expectation that you're going to win pretty comfortably, and you're not going to get giddy, are you, about beating a side 20th in the Championship at home? It's just how football is.
No,
despite what their fans might think, might I add?
Of course, yeah.
Well,
they've taken it well, haven't they, as they always do.
It was lovely to speak to one, and this is what I mean about social media. Social media shows up the bad, I think, in every fan base, including itself. No doubt about that. It was actually nice to speak to one on the pod in midweek. Me and Christian, who was a genuine fan and actually could have a decent conversation with you rather than some of the garbage you've had off their fans on social media.
It was quite funny. Like I said to you, I bumped into him in Westbridge for Chippy after the game, and I think he took a lot of pride in the comment that he got. He was the only nice Luton fan. I think he said he was very proud of that one. I can't remember. I think it was Dave Byrne, I think, that said that. But yeah, he was very happy about that. So, but also the big highlight of the match for me, above winning it, or on the same level as winning it and going through, because obviously the FA Cup is very important. I do believe we should take it very seriously and try and go as far as we can. There's no reason why we can't win it. We're currently the third best team in England. So there's no reason why we can't. There's no point in putting barriers in front. But aside from progressing, of course, having Danilo back on the pitch, I think was I'll bring you both in for this. That was pretty special. The roar when he came on was as loud as the goals that we scored, if not louder. And I thought, despite only playing about 5-10 minutes, like he hadn't really been away either.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some people on social media saying they had tears in their eyes and stuff. I mean, I would confess I didn't quite get that emotional, but it was still nice nonetheless. It was. I just think it kind of typifies where we are as a fan base towards this group of players now. I think there's this rapport that's perhaps not been there in the other 2 years in the Prem, just because we've struggled and there's been certain players who fans don't want to see ever play for the club ever again. But I think with this group of players now, there's that kind of respect at what they're actually achieving on a weekly basis. So, yeah, I mean, it's cliched, and we're not one for cliches on this podcast. But Danilo being back this month, I mean, I've said this month I wouldn't actually be that bothered if we didn't sign anyone, because whoever does come in has got to be not only the right player, but he's got to be the right sort of character to fit into this group. And I think that's important going forward. But having Danilo there will actually serve as a new signing for me, because he's just a player that, as well as we've done in that first half of the season, there's been certain games where things haven't gone right, where having Danilo available might actually have been the difference. And had he been fit, we might even have a few more points, I suppose.
When you put it like that, it's very true. I do believe, I think it's going to be the same with Sangare personally, because both of these players, you have to remember, they've had a full pre-season with Nuno. They know his tactical setups. They know exactly what their job is when they're coming into the team. They know the players as well. So it won't be like a bedding in period per se. They're literally coming in. It'd be like signing a new player and they just get to grips straight away. Like when Arsenal signs Arshavin, for example, and he scored 4 goals at Anfield. It's quite topical given who's coming up next for our preview. But Reiss, what did you make of his little return? There was one lovely line-breaking pass he made up the pitch, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, brilliant to see him back, because, for him to be in the team on the opening day of the season, and what was it? I think it was 6 minutes in one to obviously have a really bad injury, and see him come back is, lovely to see. And to be honest, another positive of yesterday is that you're going to get now at least another game for the likes of Danilo and others, obviously, to get some more minutes, because at the minute with how well we're doing, and this is a Nuno buzzword, competing in the Premier League, we can't probably chuck him in at the minute, because you've also got 3 centre mids who are fit and firing ahead of them. I think down the line maybe, but for me, just got to kind of ease him in, and that might be this whole rest half of the season, and then kind of like next season, hopefully we can get a fully fit season out of him again. Same with obviously Sangare. I mean, it's been, obviously illness and now injury. It's been pretty much a disaster, hasn't it, for him, really trying to kickstart his career at Forest. So, hopefully these players can help us. But I'm not going to hang my hat on them and say, chuck them in at the deep end. It just needs to be that steady process. You know what I mean? Because we've still got plenty of options in the centre midfield area. Another one who played yesterday and played well, as we're going to talk about, is Ward-Prowse. So but great to see Danilo back. Hopefully we get Sangare back soon as well. Although it seems he's a bit of a way off at the minute as well, unfortunately.
Yeah, torn hamstring's a pretty nasty injury. That, to be fair, as Arsenal finding out with Saka at the minute, whether he's back even for the right. I mean, it's another matter, but. We'll move on to your Slept on It thoughts. Obviously, I appreciate your comments in the chat, guys. Peaches will make a note of that. We'll try and make it a bit quieter for next time. But for now, hold your ears because it's time for your Slept on It thoughts.
Red side of the Trent. Slept on It thoughts.
Right, so we'll start with Bennett, who said, really impressed with Sousa and Jota, and of course Morata, who looks incredible. Happy for Danilo, but big team needs more minutes and still looks a little rusty. Premier Elliott, never been that confident going into a game against plucky old Luton. Every player did ever so well against a team. Every player did ever so well as a team, so wouldn't mind seeing that side in the fourth round. Today's fact is that every year on November 29th, people in the Netherlands put a pancake on their heads. Interesting. Nicholas Doyle said, professional performance today. Miguel didn't have much to do. Carlton Morris had a tough time against our defence, spent half the game moaning. Actually, there was one really funny moment, actually, where Morata was doing to him what he did to every Premier League centre-half last year. And he just went on a 2-minute tirade at the linesman who just told him to F off politely, pretty much. That was very, very funny. Thought Sosa's first touch and movement was superb. Jota ran his socks off too. Great to see Danilo back. Roll on Liverpool. Capability and function. Breaks the manager of the month curse. Does it count in a cup game? I don't know. And a squad has more depth than a deep dish pizza. I fully expected an Adebayo winner in an 89th minute, but not even my Forest PTSD could put the hex on today. There you go, Reiss. Your buzzwords spreading now. We are living through interesting times. Jim Freeman says we've not conceded since the 14th of December. Thomas Newton said didn't break sweat, professional performance, and most importantly, no injuries. Bring on Tuesday. Peaches, I'm not sure if I'm saying Peaches or not, but Jota and Sosa seem to be quite the pairing. A comfortable win in the end with the squad getting valuable minutes. James Ward-Prowse has been magic. Yates fantastic. Taiwo bit disappointed. Miguel's distribution needs a bit of work, but in general, great result. Carl Booth said can't really ask for more out today. In the hat for the next round. Never really in any danger. No injuries and more minutes for squad players. So happy to see Danilo back on grass. Another option from the bench moving forward. Bring on the Scousers. Grant Fellows said pretty much a perfect game. Clean sheet, minutes for players who need them, and 2 goals. Danilo looked remarkably sharp considering he's been out for so long. A very welcome sight and a big boost for the run-in. D says, decent performance. Ref was okay for a change. Morato, man of the match, would be daft to let Bolly leave. Thank you all for your comments coming in as we defeated plucky little Luton who just won't go away. We're now going to move on to some player performances. So Lee, I'll start with you, and I am going to give you, as alluded to there, Morato, who seems to be in this fine, rich vein of form at the minute.
Yeah, he's amazing. What a signing, 10 million quid. Rising to 15, I believe. But yeah, he was very good. Again, I've said you can say this about lots of players, but the one thing about him is he's clearly not been sulking on the sidelines. He's just been making sure he's in the best condition possible, ready for when he does get a chance. Yeah, he's just brilliant. I mean, reads the game well. He's happy to step into the space and play the ball out from the back. He knows when to clear his lines. Just another nod towards this new look recruitment model we seem to be adopting. So yeah, don't know what else to say about him. He was probably my man of the match. I think he didn't really put a foot wrong. There was others who were close behind him. Of course, there was lots of good performances yesterday, but yeah, he just does everything. Everything he does is just so effortless. He looks like a player that, I mean, he could play in at least 50. He'd start for at least 15 at the other Premier League sides, wouldn't he? Let's face it. He just looks so good. And I think someone alluded to there on the Slept on It thoughts, we'd be mad to let Bolly go. I guess we would. Every good team needs 4 centre-backs, really, in case you've got injuries and suspensions. But I think if we did let him go, it'd be purely based on just how much of an impact Morato's had, because Bolly's not getting any younger, is he? He wants to play, and he must look at the three centre-halves ahead of him and think, I've got no chance. I mean, one of the funny things I noticed after the Wolves game was Bolly on the bus with his match shirt on, and he just leant forward to Ina on Snapchat, saying, I'm just ready to play. He probably is, fair play to him, but like I say, with those three centre-halves ahead of him, he must know that he's nothing more than a last resort, I guess. So, yeah, long may this squad depth continue, because it's brilliant when you can just take a player out and put someone like him in. It just makes everything so much. The transition between the swaps is just so much easier.
Definitely, yeah. I think even though he's not necessarily starting games, Bonnie, I feel like his contribution to the team is still valued. Like that Villa game, for example, when he came on for injury time and was just immense. It was like a cheat code at the back for like that 6 minutes. I've never seen him complete so much so quickly. I'm pretty sure in that 6 minutes he must complete about 4 clearances and 3 tackles. It was bizarre, but that's probably his role now, really.
I tell you what does make me laugh. I don't know if you guys agree with this, but you know when he goes for a tackle, in my head I almost think, oh, he's going to foul him here. But he doesn't. He just gets to the ball first. It's really weird, because he approaches a tackle like he's going to be really rash. But then one swing of that left boot and he's took the man and the ball and everything. And the ref said, oh, happy days, play on. It's just really decent trait that I've spotted with him. It just, how he wins pretty much everything. It's unbelievable, really. I think he's class.
Yeah, I've got to love Big Willie. Massive player for us. Reiss, I'm going to give you James Ward-Prowse, who I thought was absolutely excellent yesterday. He was probably my man of the match, personally, despite everyone else on the pitch doing very well. But yeah, what do you think? Obviously, he's had a bit of not a tough time as such, but he's been out the size. Obviously, fans have been fans. What do you think of his performance yesterday?
Yeah, I thought first half, especially, thought it was excellent. I thought he was easily the best player on the pitch first half, actually. I mean, he set pieces. The one where Kaminski kind of spilt it and then grabbed it into, I mean, Jesus. I mean, nearly even scored direct from a corner. They were causing all kinds of problems. But just his composure on the ball, just keeping it ticking, the calmness. I think there was like one he flicked round the corner for Jota, which got us on the counter-attack. I thought he was... And to be honest, let's be honest, he should do against relegation struggles in the Championship. All his players should do. So, yeah, it was nice to see him play well. And yeah, that's all I can really say. People are like, it's January, so people are like, obviously on social media, like, yeah, I think we should let this player go and that player go. Leave all that to the summer. I think the departures now, unless probably the only one who springs to mind is Omobadadele. The rest, I'd keep till the summer and reassess them. Even like Willy Bolly, I know we spoke about this on the pod a few weeks back, Christian, but if we was to get into Europe, he's someone who you'd probably give a year deal to just for that squad depth, because you can still do it. You know what I mean? If he was like a player where you're thinking, oh God, I'm not sure about if he can still do it at this level. Every time he plays, he can still do it at this level. So yeah, but any major changes, I'd wait till the summer now in terms of departures. The only one I think is probably Omobadadele. He's going to go in. He wasn't even in the squad yesterday. So I think the rest I'd pretty much keep. And if we can add maybe one or two who can obviously replenish the squad a little bit, then yeah, maybe. But that's my opinion anyway on it.
No, that's fair enough. It's more a valid opinion as well. I think I'm in the same boat, really. And I mean, we'll be interested to see if we have a year option on Bolly's contracts, because you're all right. I mean, he has got experience in Europe as well. I mean, didn't he score, I think, the winner against Besiktas for Wolves in the Europa League game?
Yeah, he did, yeah.
So, you know, he's obviously like been there and done it as well. Maybe you would have played for, I think, was it Porto, I think, Bolly as well? He might have played for them as well, yeah. So, again, you can't really put a price on that, because, I mean, let's say we are to go into Europe next season. Amazing, still we can be considering that. We haven't really got a lot of players who have done it. I mean, Sangare has, obviously he's played in the competition. Marasso has for Benfica. Milenkovic has for Fiorentina. Then you're sort of struggling, really. Maybe Moreno, but he's not our player. I don't know if Sells has played at that level. Maybe perhaps in his youth. But, you know, you look at players who haven't really played at European competitions, and that could be something that we maybe tap into for the summer, depending on how we do. So, yeah, we could end up well keeping him. Who knows? Lee, I'm going to give you Ramon Sousa, who I thought, goal and assists, pretty happy days, really.
Yeah, it was a good performance for him as well. I did some player ratings, and I think Sosa and Morata were the two who got 9. So yeah, that says what I thought of him. Goal and assist, can't do much else really. I mean, he's another one a bit like Jota, isn't he? He does some really good stuff, and then he does some stuff that you can clearly see he's kind of still adapting to the Premier League and to English football. But yeah, I mean, I actually thought with his second penalty appeal, it wasn't a dive, but it probably wasn't a penalty. But I don't know, it falls into that category of if that's a big 6 player. There is contact. The commentator did allude to it we were watching some highlights, and the commentator there was some contact. But yeah, he just showed a lot of tenacity. I thought when he got in possession of the ball, he wanted to drive at his man. He wanted to take us further up the pitch. What I like about him and Jota, to be fair, is they're both different to Elanga and Hudson-Odoi. I think it's not just you putting people on for the sake of putting them on anymore. I think when they do come in and play, they actually bring something different to the table. So yeah, I think he's certainly proving a good signing for us, and after that sort of performance, he'll hope for more minutes, I'm sure.
Absolutely, yeah. And yeah, very, very briefly before we move on to Liverpool preview, exciting times, I'm going to give you Big T, who I didn't think was that bad. I thought he was all right. I thought first half hour, particularly, he looked very good. But of course, there's no rationale on social media. He's either very, very good yesterday or send him to Mansfield in the first available bus. So how did you think he played?
Yeah, I'll do a swap with John after this. Social media, it's always in the middle, isn't it? I mean, he wasn't as bad. I mean, he wasn't effing awful, was he? He wasn't that. You know what I mean? He was okay, probably at best. For me, unless if a really good offer come in January and we could obviously replace him, it's something you'd look at. But he's probably one of them who had assess in the summer, and to be honest, probably look at maybe letting go personally. As much as I love him, because at the end of the day, for the money we spent, 17 million, I know he's had a lot of injuries, but the goals he scored us in the first season, it was worth its weight in gold.
He's more than repaid that money. Yeah, he's more than repaid that
money, because his goals kept us up at the back end of that season. So that 17 million, really, if you're talking about it in that sense, has been a bargain. But the worry for Tyro is, and to be honest, the former management team pushed, because obviously Steve couldn't really get a tune out of Chris Wood. We probably pushed him beyond his limits, and obviously that's why he's had muscle problems, and he just doesn't look the same player anymore, does he? And them injuries have probably caught up on him. I'm sure there'll be a little bit of a confidence drop because of, he's lost his place in the team, and Chris Wood's the number one striker. He's not going to be knocked out of the team, is he, Wood, unless he gets injured. So, but I'd keep him around till the end of the season. I still think he's got his part to play for sure. He looks a good egg off the pitch, doesn't he? That's what I mean about, he's another one who I think people would look at getting rid of now. We don't need to do that. If we can bring in a young striker from South America, learn off Tyro and Wood, I think that'd be ideal. But I wouldn't be looking at getting rid of him till the summer. But it's just a shame, really, for me. The injuries have kind of caught up on him. But again, as well, he's always been unorthodox, isn't he?
He's always been quite cumbersome, isn't he?
Yeah. So the problem is for them type of players, when they're playing poorly, unorthodox players, or not at the level they are going to look clumsy and sluggish. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I think Tyro's still got his place in the squad till the end of the season, and I don't think he was as bad as people made out yesterday. Just unfortunately, probably not at that sharpness he was from the back end of the first season to the start of the second season, where we all remember him being, sought after by Chelsea, wasn't it, at that stage?
He was, yeah. Chelsea put a bit of
him. So that's my opinion on Tyro, to be honest.
Can I just come in on Tyro as well? I think the only thing that I'm finding difficult is that we saw how happy he was when he scored against Wolves. He clearly just needed that one goal. And then 4 days later, 4 or 5 days later, you've genuinely got people saying words like, he's finished. He's 27. He's not finished. Reiss has hit the nail on the head with one bit he said there. When has Taiwo Awoniyi ever looked like an orthodox centre forward? Never. Ever.
He reminds me of Darwin, didn't he? John
Even the
testified to that
YouTube
shortly.
footage, even the YouTube footage before we signed him, you thought he's an absolute battering ram of a striker. Clearly knows where the net is because his goal record's pretty good. Let's see. And from the first couple of games we watched him, we were all a bit like, God, he's going to be a handful. No one's ever watched Awoniyi play football and gone, oh, he's really easy on the eye. He's ever so elegant when he's in possession of the ball. Nobody. But this whole he's finished stuff has got to stop. That's absolute nonsense. No footballer is finished at 27. It's absolutely bonkers. And I find that sort of stuff really hard to grasp. Okay, he's in poor form. Call it what you want. I know he scored the other day. He's not in the greatest form. But like Reiss has just said, Wood's the main man. He's going to play more often than not. He's going to find it difficult to get into his full flow and look not rusty, I suppose, without playing. But he's not finished. Let's just stop talking like that.
The best example of this is kind of last weekend, and it will tie in well with Liverpool. Is like obviously Trent had a really bad game defensively against Manchester United, but people making out like that's something what's like the discovered fire. I think most people know that Trent Alexander-Arnold is not the best defender, and he never really has been. He's just been a superb footballer, and his qualities have been his delivery. And as you saw yesterday, I know it was against Accrington, but the goal from outside the area. I mean, how many right backs can... I know we had Aiders against West Ham, but how many right backs can control that and then ping it straight into the top corner? That's his quality. So, yeah, like I said, Tyro's always been unorthodox, isn't he? But it'll serve his purpose until the end of the season, and I think we'll reassess them personally, any major decisions.
Definitely, yeah. Just very quickly, so obviously I've got Adam Sips on his thoughts too. He put cruise control from the squad players, Morata and Ward-Prowse to cut off everyone else, Mason have Danilo back, bring on Liverpool on Tuesday, 1-0 winning my prediction. So we are now going to get into that because obviously good news is Forest in the fourth round of the FA Cup. We've banished the demons of last season by beating Luton Town, and Tommy Robinson's in a prison cell crying his eyes out because of it. Great news. So I'm now going to move on and bring John Gibbons from the Anfield Wrap into the chat. So John, thank you so much so patiently as well. Reiss, are you staying? Or Reiss is gone? Okay, Reiss is going. He did say he was, to be fair. But John, thank you so much. Again, sorry to keep you waiting.
No, it's all right. I was stealing all the points for when we do our preview show, and I'll sound really clever about it too. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, great to have you on. And obviously, again, as like a pretty routine win, we watched a bit of it before the game yesterday. Cracking goal from Trent, and yeah, must be pretty pleased with that performance of Slots Tots. I think it's been the media cry.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because he's not. I mean, it's early days with the new manager, but one thing he hasn't seemed quite as keen on sort of the younger players as Klopp was. Klopp put a lot of faith in youth and will give people a go, and that's not really happened as much under Slot so far. And so it was good to see a few lads giving a run and some really nice performances and a goal in terms of Jayden Danns from a young player as well. So yeah, it was good fun yesterday at Anfield, nice and relaxed, as opposed to Manchester United the week before, which was anxiety-ridden hell. It was nice to just have a lovely afternoon watching some good players play football.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think we can all testify to that. It sort of felt like the calm before the storm for us. I suppose I'd better ask you straight off the bat. I mean, how are you sort of finding Forest at this moment in time? Because I saw earlier, I think Opta have now moved our title winning chances from 0% to 0.001%. So we've now 10,000. If there were bookies, it'd be 10,000 to 1 on for Forest to win the league. Do you consider us a title rival at this moment in time? I can't be asking that question, but I think
you've got a better chance than Opta do. I must say. I mean, that's sort of that's real Dumb and Dumber territory. So you're saying there's a chance, kind of thing, isn't it? I would. It's hard, isn't it? Because I think Forest deserve a lot of respect. But a few weeks ago, everyone was talking about a Chelsea title challenge, and then they haven't won since. I think they've drawn 2, lost 2 of 4. So it can fall away very quickly, but I have been impressed with Forest whenever I've seen you guys play. You are there on merit, and I'm sure that's sort of how it feels. And you're a dangerous side, and I love the togetherness. I love the squad and how you guys are playing together. It's exciting to watch, and it's just great to see someone having loads of fun, because I think the Premier League can knock all the fun out of you sometimes. You know, it's like you see clubs coming up sometimes and then you just sort of get battered. I think Sheffield United last year had the least amount of fun anyone's ever had in the Premier League, but there's been like other sorts of examples, sort of that really. And then even if you do manage to stay up, you can hit a ceiling quite quickly, and then you just sort of becomes a bit of a slog. So I think it is a good thing for the Premier League generally, for the club to sort of break through that, even if it's just sort of temporarily or for the season or whatever. And so, like, for Liverpool fans, this is a massive game on Tuesday, and we've got a few tricky-ish away games coming up, but we see this as the hardest one. And we've been talking a little bit. There was the time where we won the league, which is a few years ago now. There was a game against Leicester, who were riding high at the time, which is sort of crazy to think now, because they've actually been relegated since then and then come back. But they were sort of second or third going into the new year, and we went there and won really well. And then it was sort of a bit of a it really sort of set us up to go on and win the title. And so Liverpool fans are talking at it a little bit like that. So as I say, I've really enjoyed watching Forest, and we've been talking about this game for about a week, which, considering we've played twice in that period, just shows how big it is for Liverpool fans.
I wanted to kind of go back to the start of the season, to be honest, John, because I thought it was really interesting that obviously having a manager like Klopp and then replacing him with Slot. As a supporter, what was your did you anticipate that a title challenge would be actually achievable this season, or was it just a case of kind of seeing what he can do, letting him get his feet under the table and taking it from there?
Yeah, we didn't, to be honest with you, Lee. I don't think many people did, and so it's been a little bit of a surprise how quickly it's all gelled together, especially as we didn't really buy anyone in the summer. We didn't spend any money. The only player that we got in, well, we bought two players. We bought a goalkeeper who hasn't arrived yet, so he's not made much of an impact. And then Chiesa, who's come in, who's obviously got quite a big reputation, but scored his first goal yesterday. But we've not really seen, because he's been picking up little injuries, and so he's not really featured yet. So he's pretty much had the same squad as Jurgen Klopp had, and so the idea that a manager would come in and get more out of the squad than Jurgen did sort of felt like blasphemy to even sort of suggest, because obviously Jurgen was held in such a high regard. But I mean, a couple of things have happened. Quietly has got a little bit more out of it, and that's not to say he's a better manager than Jurgen, but as Jurgen himself admitted when he left, he was sort of, he was tired, he sort of, felt a little bit frazzled. That can happen from having a Premier League job for a long time. We've had a better injury record, either by luck or maybe by design. Now, it should be said that one of the things that happened when Slot came in was people said he's very good at keeping people fit. And that was one of the things that they liked about him at Feyenoord, is that him and his team, for whatever reason, are good at getting players on the pitch. That's how, based on how they manage them, maybe a bit of stylistic play as well. Jurgen's football was so heavy metal that, you're going to get some injuries in a mosh pit, and that's what kind of can happen, whereas Slot is a little bit more controlled, and so maybe a little bit easier on the legs, and so we've had less injuries. And then obviously the massive thing is just a complete collapse of Manchester City, which I don't think any of us could have predicted. And so all of those things sort of combined and have led to us being in a much stronger position than I think any of us could have predicted in the summer.
I think one of the things that's really, you look at sort of like incidents of like coaching and emotion at your squad, for example. I know obviously it was quite well documented, Liverpool's chase for Zubimendi, it fell through, but his response to that was to put Ryan Gravenberch as a 6, and he's just been unbelievable there, it's fair to say. I mean, did you see that sort of transition happen? Do you think he was capable of performing at this high standard, for example, or what do you make of his sort of form of season?
Yeah, it's been really great, and he has been the standout story of the season. And you're right to highlight him, Christian, because he's been a revelation. And Klopp wanted him for a long time, even when he first moved to Germany. They wanted him to take him from Holland, and he decided to go to Bayern Munich. And then, even though it wasn't working out for him, they kept going in for him. And And then he came last season, and there was times where he looked great, and then there was times where you could understand why he wasn't getting a game at Bayern, but he was still quite young. This summer, the manager's changed his position, and like you rightly point out, that was more necessity really than especially design. He didn't come in day one and go, "Don't worry about a number 6. This is my guy." They tried to buy one, it didn't work, and so it became a bit of a, well, we'll try this and see how it goes. And he was great from day one, really. He's been consistently fit, which has been a big thing as well. I'd say last few weeks he's started to look like he's played a lot of games this season, so we need to be a little bit careful. Although obviously he has Saturday off in the FA Cup, so we're hoping he'll be raring to go against you guys. But he has sort of been spectacular, and although there were signs of a really good player last season, by the end of the year he's not really getting picked. He's coming off the bench or playing in the change team as we try and rotate between competitions. Europa League playing Thursday, Sunday, he was sort of in and out really. But this year he's been fantastic. It was a bit of a ridiculous situation earlier in the season when he was just getting man of the match every week, and his teammates were just sort of laughing like, how do they need to get in? They'd score 2 goals and it'd be Gravenberch again. But so he's not quite at those levels, but he's still playing fantastically well. And with McAllister alongside him, he's obviously an excellent player too. The midfield's become a really real area of strength for us. Whereas if you'd have asked Liverpool fans in the summer, they would have said that's the area of the pitch that we needed, most kind of investment.
I think another question I've got to ask you before obviously you go. The 3 contract situations is obviously a massive topic of discussion. I mean, I find it absolutely staggering that a club the size of Liverpool have let arguably the 3 most important players all dwindle their contracts down in the same summer. I think what I find fascinating is which ones fans want to see addressed as a matter of urgency. So I think the question is, if you could only keep one of them, I mean, at this stage, I'd be surprised if all 3 signed new contracts. So if you could only keep one of them, which one would you say want the club to prioritise more than the other 2?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question. And to be honest with you, Lee, you could ask me out tomorrow and I'd probably sort of give you a different answer because, the 3 of them are so fantastic. And as you rightly point out, it's not a great look for the club. That certainly the Liverpool have always kind of prided, say always, that under this ownership group have prided themselves on being sort of well run. And so they haven't been as free as the spending as maybe some other clubs towards the top are. I'm always conscious who I'm talking to when people say, "Oh no, yeah, with your £75 million defender at the back, you're really struggling." But in terms of comparatively to Manchester United, Manchester City, even Arsenal, the transfer spend sort of aren't quite there. But what they've kind of modelled themselves on is being a little bit smarter and using their money well. And then once the players are here and doing well, rewarding them in that sense. So our wage bill is sky high because if you do well at Liverpool, you sort of get weighed in. But in terms of transfer spend, it's sort of fairly low. And so to get into this situation with the 3 players, it's unusual and it's very sort of not in keeping with how they've modelled themselves in terms of running the football club. In terms of who I feel like I'm trying to avoid answering the question here, but so they got this situation. I think Salah feels like Mo Salah's my answer, but I'm going to talk about all 3 of them. Mo Salah's the one because I think he is stardust and I think he's a match winner. I think they're the hardest to kind of buy and I think the hardest to find. And although there's other good forwards out there, you could get someone in and there's no guarantee that he will be able to do what Mo does. Mo's just relentless and he's season after season and he's... if he has a bad game, then there's 3 good ones coming, and even if he has a duff game, he often either scores or gets an assist. And so I think he's rare, and when you have these rare kind of diamonds, I think you'd be wise to keep hold of them. He's also probably the most expensive, and I think by all accounts quite a complicated contract. So would be sort of concerned, but Mo will be the one for me. But like that said, Virgil's the captain, and Slot's already talked about the huge influence he has on the squad. So I think he'd be the most, you could argue be the most missed. But our supporters, obviously, there's a lot of that we don't see. We don't see the just sort of dressing room stuff and what he's like in training. We see more of what Mo Salah does, because that's sort of on the pitch. Trent is a funny one because he is a fantastic player and he's the youngest. And so you could argue, well, that's the one you want to sort because you're going to get the longest out of him. But he is also sort of a luxury player. And when we're playing well and he's sprinkling stardust all over it, he looks sort of fantastic. But there's maybe signs that Slot would like someone who does a bit more right back rather than this kind of so he's a playmaker at right back, and that's fantastic when you're sort of playing well and flying, whereas in other ways you can kind of look at it and think, well are we better with someone who's not as talented but a little bit more traditional in that role. And also Connor Bradley is a fantastic footballer. He might actually play against you guys tomorrow. He might start Connor. And so it feels like that there is someone there who, can't do what Trent do, but can do a really good job for Liverpool. So Trent's probably the one who's maybe now become the least important to the team, even though it would be a real shame to see him go, not least because, he's from the city and we'd all have liked to have seen him captain the club.
I was going to say, the Trent one seems weird. It feels like there's a big split between Liverpool fans. Not that you can gauge too much from social media, of course, but you've got some who sort of feel it's sort of like treachery to leave Liverpool as is, and you've got some who think that to leave on a free is even worse because obviously the club's getting no money for it. But there are others who sort of say that he's had broken promises from the boards. He hasn't really been treated in fair way. Obviously, the forwards now is being played out, but how it's like Lee said, it's very baffling that this has happened. It's got to this point. But how do you sort of view the whole thing? If he is to leave, for example, do you think that destroys his legacy? How do you sort of see the whole thing?
Yeah, it will. If he goes, he will get stick, and he knows that, and he'll have factored that in. It started a little bit against Manchester United last week. I was obviously hearing to a little bit of the show, and you guys were talking about that. He wasn't playing well, and a lot of people were, the crowd turned on him a little bit, not the whole crowd, but obviously certain sections of it, and you could hear it. I was obviously in the ground in my seat, and you could hear people bringing up the Madrid thing and stuff like that, and. It is one of those things, like your guest was saying before, he's people saying, he's pulling out of tackles, he's going to Real Madrid, he's been pulling out of tackles since he was 17, you know what I mean? It's just that's kind of who he is, but then he's you can kind of, you tolerate it a little bit because of what he's capable of, but people, because the bid had just come in, and there's always an element, and you guys will know this, if you feel like someone's kind of looking around, it's almost kind of like, well, you want to get your retaliation in first type thing. And so there's a little bit of a, people have decided that he's definitely going. And so that they're kind of, getting the digs in kind of early, really. And it's only because of, as football fans, you feel like someone's leaving you, kind of like a relationship, really. So it is a little bit raw. I think if he were to go, and I think it's more likely that he will than he won't now. I think it'll be tough, but you'd hope that first of all we have a successful season, and so that sort of ends up dominating. If he goes out with the league title and a cup, maybe even a Champions League, who knows? Then then that helps, and you'd like to think after a few years. There'll be people who, will be able to sort of look at it a different way and kind of look at it from a more human point of view, which is it's an opportunity to go and do something else with his life and play in a different culture and play for a fantastic team. I think for Liverpool, and I'm sure it's the same for you guys as well, there's people who've moved on where you've been kind of fuming at the time, and then you've kind of stayed fuming, and then there's others who've left us. Examples for Liverpool, Mascherano, who goes to Barcelona, even Torres, who went to Chelsea, and that was seen as awful at the time. And then now you look back and go, I mean, like you said before, Christian, you can see how, promises made and things like that. When Torres left Liverpool, the club was we wasn't in a great position. We were actually a couple of months away from, well, a couple of months after sort of the takeover and kind of things like that, really, and it had been a real mess. And so you could sort of understand it. And so you'd hope with a bit of if he does go after a bit of time, that people would be sort of a little bit more accepting. But it could be a little bit of a rough ride over the next few months. Certainly if performances drop off on the pitch and results as well.
Definitely, yeah. I suppose it's just mad. It's like a big issue, but I guess we'll all see how it all pans out. I'm sure it'll come out in the wash one way or the other. But see, looking ahead to Tuesday's game, what are you sort of expecting from the game, and what do you think? I know obviously Arnie Slot's been very keen to mention Nottingham Forest in his press conferences, even many months after the Anfield match. But what are you expecting more of the same? Are you expecting us to be maybe a bit more adventurous? How do you think the game's going to go?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a running joke in Liverpool, like how many games do Nottingham Forest have to win before Arne Slot goes, oh yeah, fair enough, we'll accept the defeat. They're actually a good team. You seem to sort of, get a bit in an ongoing way, very, very sort of bothered by it. I'm expecting a similar-ish game. I watched your game against when you beat Tottenham at home, and it was interesting to me how you played in that, and it was it was a little bit more like an away side play, even though playing at home, and how you're such a good counter-attacking team. I can kind of understand how and why a team would sort of play like that. But you springing these attacks on Spurs and with great effect, because you obviously won the game, and so I don't think the game will be massively different to the one at Anfield. I think Liverpool will have more of the ball. I think you guys will look to sort of spring on the counter, and it's just how we deal with that, really. I think one of the things that Slot's tried to change from Jurgen is for us to be a bit more calculated in how and why we take risks, and understand that when you give the ball away, that you're creating an opportunity for the opposition. I think that is even more the case when you play against Forest, and so I think he'll be drumming into them over the next couple of... we haven't got much time. Neither of us have got much time between the games, but I think any time he has, he'd be talking about protecting the ball and not giving it away, trying to do things that are unlikely to come off. And I think that can sometimes be a bit difficult because, to go back to someone like Trent, he always wants to be creating, and that's why he was so good in the Jurgen Klopp teams, because Klopp teams, wanted to get the ball and create a chance immediately, and Trent was brilliant at that because he's got these big switches. People always talk about how often he gives the ball away in games, and the sort of stats come up. Always give the ball away 25 times, but he doesn't care. But I think Arne Slot does, and certainly in this game he sort of will do, and so I think we'll be a little bit more cautious than what we would normally be, because we will be worried about your threat on the counter. I don't think Forest will change the way they play at all, and nor should they, because it's been so successful. So I think a bit of a cagey one is what I'm talking myself into here. It wouldn't surprise me at all if it is 0-0 on 60 again, like it was at Anfield, and it's just sort of who can make the most of it. But it's going to be a brilliant atmosphere. I'm coming down, and I'm really looking forward to it. It feels like a massive game, and I'm sure it does for you guys as well. But that's what you want as a football fan, isn't it? You want to be feeling like you're playing in big games, and it definitely feels like one for us. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to the atmosphere. And I'm looking in a funny way. I'm looking forward to the test of this Liverpool side, because it is quite a new team, and not just because it's a new manager, but about half our team have been there and done it, and half of them haven't, and it's how they cope with it is going to be really interesting to see. And earlier in the season, we had a big week where we had Man City and Real Madrid in the same week, and we won both those games. And then that felt like, they've passed the big test. But then everyone beat Man City, and it sort of took the gloss off it a little bit. So whereas you guys beating everyone, all conquering, and so it's going to be kind of... I'm really interested to see how the team cope with it. And I think if they can go there and play well and win well, then I think it'll be okay. Then we'll start, having a better idea of what this team have made of, because they've done really well this season, but it's been relatively stress-free at the moment. But this is no doubt a big test.
I suppose as well, obviously Lee might jump in here, but obviously from a Forest perspective, I mean, we're sort of looking at this as if we win this, we go 3 points behind. You've still got to go to Goodison with Moyes at Goodison as well. It's not like it's not the walkover. So I suppose you never know. But if you were to, obviously you mentioned you expect Bradley to play, what sort of team do you think it will be then?
Yeah, I'm not sure on Bradley. I just think he might. It's probably the only. Well, so the forward line picks itself because none of the you can pick a team based on who just doesn't play at the weekend, and so the forward line actually does pick itself. It'll be Salah, Diaz, and Gakpo. None of them play a single minute on Saturday, and then they've been his favoured front three. Especially away from home, they've been really effective. So they played when we scored 6 at Tottenham and scored 5 at West Ham. It was those three. And so he will pick those three again, especially as Jota plays a full 90 minutes against Accrington. So it'll be those three and maybe Jota to come off the bench if he wants to change it. The midfield three, again, I'd expect him to go for what he did at Spurs in the League Cup last week because, again, they don't play a minute. So Gravenberch, McAllister and Jones. And then it'll be Szoboszlai, off the bench, sort of making a bit of an impact there if he needs to. And then defensively is the only real question marks because Virgil will play. A left back, I would have thought Robertson will play. Chimika's plays the last 2 cup games, so you'd have thought Robertson would come back in. He's struggling a little bit, Robertson, this season. He's starting to look like he's played a lot of football, which he, of course, he has. And it's so intense, his style, that he's starting to creak a little bit. So it's an area of the pitch that you might get some joy down that right-hand side. But Robertson, I think we will go with Robertson. It's a toss-up between Trent and Conor Bradley, and I'm not sure which way he'll go. And then alongside Virgil, it'll be interesting because Konate, as Joe Gomez is injured, Konate's come back and has kind of been a little bit kind of looked like he's still struggling a little bit with something. Apparently he was going to play on Saturday, and then he took him out last minute, and we've not really heard. So that'd be interesting in the press conference tomorrow, what that was all about, whether that was a precaution or whether it was something more serious. If he plays Konate, then it'll be interesting to see how he does. If he plays Quansah, then I would be sort of a little bit worried, especially against someone like Chris Wood, because Quansah is a good young player, but he's looked a bit struggling with confidence. He doesn't deal well at all with Liam Delap. I nearly called him Rory then, we're all showing our age. Liam Delap, his lad, on the opening day of the season, and actually gets hooked at half-time. And so, he's found that sort of physical presence up top difficult. So I'd be a little bit concerned. We've generally conceded goals a little bit too regularly over the last few weeks. And so I think defensively is where my concerns are going into this game. I'd feel a lot better if Konate was there, put it that way.
It's just nice to think you've got like here your bench ups and it's like, Szoboszlai and Jota. So it's
no, they're brilliant players. Yeah, brilliant players.
Like what exactly we're competing against. It's crazy. But last but no least, of course, if I get a score prediction from you, John, what are you going to go for?
I'm going to go for the win. I think we'll win 2-1. I mean, that's what I'm going to go for. I think any result's possible, but like I say, with it feeling like a massive game, I'm just backing the boys to step up and come through it. So I'm going to go with a 2-1 win. But yeah, really looking forward to it, and it'd be really interesting to see how they cope with the test.
Absolutely, yeah. Lee, what's your score prediction? I think we covered it.
It's going to be 1 apiece because I'm going to Forest win. I don't know why. I've just got a really positive outlook on this game. I think obviously Forza are doing their display.
They are.
The atmosphere is going to be electric. I presume they're doing this display, by the way. I don't know that.
They've hinted at it, haven't they? Yeah.
Yeah. So. I've just got a really good feeling. I really hope it's going to be one of those nights where the whistle goes in the first 10 minutes. Don't know, we get a corner or something and it just fizzes in off someone's shoulder, gets the roof off the stadium, gets everyone bang up for it more than they were in the first place. But I'm not underestimating how tough a challenge it's going to be. I just got a really good feeling about it. And I'll go for a 2-1 as well, but in the other direction.
For you to think we're going to win a game, bloody hell.
I know.
I don't know. I mean, it's weird. So I was talking to Dad on the way back about yesterday. It's like you think the games we've had recently, like Sheffield United in the playoffs sort of thing, Arsenal at home first season up, where we knew if we won that game we'd be safe. This probably trumps those, to be fair, just purely because of what we're potentially fighting for. Obviously, if we lose it and tumble down the league, it doesn't. You look back at it in hindsight and say, no, it's not as important in those games, obviously. But to be potentially 3 points off the leaders with about a third of the season left to play is bizarre. I can't tip Forest to lose. I mean, I probably should, but I can't do it. I reckon. I think a clean sheet run might come to an end, but 2-1.
Has it been loads of fun though? Honestly, because it looked from the outside, it looks like you are having the most fun in the league.
It's been amazing. We can't believe what we're seeing.
Yeah, no, that's great because it is meant to be a laugh, isn't it? And so much of it kind of, I can say for we're excited. But when we the Merseyside derby got called off and we didn't really know what to do with ourselves, so we just went to the pub because it was December and you were allowed, and we watched your game against Manchester United together. That was that day away at Old Trafford and winning, and it just looked like you one of those away ends where you just love to be in, because it was and that was only the start of this current sort of run, but it just looked like on the pitch as well, they look like they're really enjoying it, which I'm into. But for you guys, as I say, it just looks like you're having the most fun in the league.
Yeah, that's probably about right. I think we are. It's quite nice, isn't it? But no, let's hopefully continue a bit longer. But massive thank you for coming on, John. I really appreciate your time today. Thank you to everyone who's come on and listen, watch along with us. We'll get some on Spotify shortly. We'll be back on Wednesday for our Liverpool review, which go one of two ways. We'll see. But until then, enjoy the next few days. Hopefully see you at the City grounds and come on, you Reds.